welcome back to another Just 5 Mins. We've got SQLite or SQLite. I don't know. SQLite runs off the tongue a lot better, doesn't it? But you might think, well, okay, what's that? It's SQL, so most people will know what SQL is. But if I said, what's the most used database in the world, and I'm going out on a limb here, I've got no facts to back this up apart from some basics, but there's over 1 trillion installs with SQLite. Okay, so people would normally say Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, Microsoft SQL, whatever. But I bet you any money during your day you're actually using SQLite and not even aware of it. And the reason being is because it's pretty much in every device that you use, an iPhone, an Android, lots of other devices, even on web browsers, I believe. I'm going to have to look up that because I remember using things like IndexedDB and I can't remember what the other one was to store states in web browsers a long time ago. But I believe it is actually part of the browser structure. So if you're writing like Blazor or WASM apps, if you don't know what those things are, I did a couple of Just 5 Mins a while ago, where you can essentially use compiled code, not just .NET. It's you can have lots of different languages, C++ and all sorts of things running like a natively in the browser, but it can access SQLite. Anyway, SQLite has been around a long time, and it's a file-based SQL type of database, okay, which sounds very old hat and all the rest of it, but as I'll get to, it's going through a bit of a modernization. So SQLite, it's like I say, it's installed by default on iPhones, Androids, all sorts of other devices. It is SQL. When I used it last in anger, quite a few years ago, it was relatively basic SQL. But these days you have got things like a little bit more advanced stuff like CTEs, which are common table expressions. So in Microsoft SQL, for example, and it's not just exclusively to that, you could do things like recursive queries, hierarchical queries even. It's got graph stuff built in, and it's got a huge plugin with SQLite. It's got a massive plugin sort of community which has been around for a long time. So you've got lots of other, even like vector database stuff now, which has become extremely popular with a lot of AI stuff, storing vectors for, you know, nearest word types or things like that. Yeah. So, but it's also got JSON support, which is near and dear to my heart because of using staging databases. And I am definitely going to do a video on this. It will be using Microsoft SQL, but nevertheless, JSON support is in SQLite, and it's not just querying against JSON. So you can have one field in your SQL table, Microsoft or SQLite or others, I'm sure, and you can query that blob. So it gives you like a third dimension to your rows and columns, or more than third dimension. It's like another set of dimensions of tables. Because you've got a JSON document. You can also do this with XML, by the way, but the syntax in SQL is a little bit old, messy, I think, personally, whereas JSON is a lot cleaner. Hence, I'm going to do a video on that. But the idea being that not only can you query JSON, you can actually update segments of the JSON or arrays or structures of that JSON. Okay. So anyway, the modernization bit. So I listened to a really good podcast just recently, so I can't take the credit for this, but there's something called SQL or SQLite, but I like to call it SQLite, I'm sorry. And it's basically SQLite Cloud, okay? And it's backed by the original creator of SQLite. It's got high concurrency, strong consistency. I am reading this off a web browser, and it's dynamically scalable, multi-region. It's got nodes that will, I was going to say sing together. Well, I suppose they do, but they can talk together. But it does conflict-free synchronization. This I've got to delve into a lot more. you can run queries and stuff on your client side in your mobile phone or your web app or your normal app, your whatever app, and it will automatically synchronize changes across nodes and devices in the background. Okay. By the way, SQLite Cloud is in beta. It's not GA yet, but it seems like it's very, very close to being as the time of this recording. I've gone over 5 minutes again, but very quickly, it's got a lot of real-time aspects like pub/sub, the publish subscribe. So as you make a change, all these other nodes. So it uses a Raft protocol, if you've ever come across that. And it's got distributed, strongly consistent, sort of synchronization between clients and nodes. So you can have multiple nodes, but seriously, it looks like the good thing is you can literally lift and shift. So if you've got a local SQLite environment, they've got something called, I think they call it a bridge, SQLite bridge, and it's essentially turning your local, it's got fully compatible, 100% compatible with SQLite locally, but the bridge allows you to call the APIs, exact same APIs for the cloud, but you can use it in conjunction both. You can use locally in the cloud. The cloud stuff obviously gives you it's a lot of scalability, but it does have full 100% compatibility, but it does and I've forgotten where the bit is, but you can it's got role-based security. The security seems well thought through. I'll put the links below, you can make your own mind up obviously, but it's a weird thing, isn't it? Because instantly you think of the big databases. Not that SQLite isn't and can't be, but you think of Postgres, MySQL, all the rest of it. And I would have guessed MySQL is probably one of the most popular, or Postgres, out on the web. But and that's probably true, but SQLite certainly being used everywhere, like on local devices. So anyway, I'll put the links below. I'm quite excited to try that actually. I like the idea of that, that consistency and the conflict-free synchronization, that and the pub/sub. But also you can write edge functions as well. So a bit like store procedures, but you can write functions to execute custom code on the same nodes where your data is. I think it's a clever move forward with something that's been around for a long time, and like I say, 1 trillion installs allegedly. So anyway, just 5 minutes has dripped over again into just 8 minutes, so I'm going to leave it there until the next time. Take care, and we'll catch you later.